If you think you might be feeling depressed, stressed, anxious, or overwhelmed, BetterHelp, the sponsor of this episode, is here for you. BetterHelp offers a broad range of over 20,000 licensed therapists who are trained to listen and help you. Plus, you can get 10% off your first month with my code, betterhelp.com/Kohler. With BetterHelp, you can talk to your therapist in a private online environment at your convenience, and all you have to do is fill out a questionnaire to help assess your specific needs before getting matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. Then you schedule secure video and phone sessions, plus you can exchange unlimited messages and everything you share is completely confidential. As a mom constantly working around Jaden's toddler schedule, having my weekly therapy online has been a complete game changer and a huge reason why I have made big steps to better my mental health for myself and for my family. You can also request a new therapist anytime at no additional charge. Join the 2 million plus people who have taken charge of their mental health with an experienced BetterHelp therapist. Don't forget to use my code to get that 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/Kohler. That's better, HELP.com/Kohler. Hello and welcome back to Kohler Commentary and another episode of the Korea Travel Edition. Today I am joined by Younghui Tewksbury, who when I used to go to church at Pinnetti or Lighthouse Ministry in Dallas, Richardson area. And when I had left, I believe you and your husband had then joined the ministry. And so our paths never really crossed, but had seen your face and the involvement you had in the ministry. And then I think at like a wedding is when we like actually interacted. I had Jaden there and you just immediately helped when you saw a need or something. Oh, she knows I'm like a new mom who can use the help because my husband wasn't there either. So I just remember that presence and then following each other on Instagram, understanding each other in our newborn phases because Isabel is 8 months. Eight and a
Yes,
half
she's
maybe. And then Evan just turned 8 months. So definitely some unspoken relating happening as we do this together. But she has 3 girls, and we're going to hear more about it because they just got back from Korea. So welcome to the podcast.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
Tell me, I guess, a little bit about yourself, maybe a description about your family.
Okay, my husband and I got married in 2012. We were really young, 24, and we didn't,
Oh,
I know, we're actually from up north, New York and Pennsylvania. And so he had finished grad school, and then we were looking to move. And so my parents were kind of like, why don't y'all get married and then move together? Okay. So anyway, we got here when we were 24 in Dallas, Texas, and we didn't have our first kid till almost 30. So we had
oh,
like
okay.
5 years of just him and I, being the only married couple out of all of our friends. And then
Right.
we had Harper when I was almost 30, Ava 2 years later, and then Isabel had the biggest age gap. So she is almost 6 years apart from Harper and almost 4 years apart from Ava.
Oh, okay, okay.
Um, my journey to motherhood, man, it has been really rewarding and really, really hard, but it has gotten easier. And I feel like as the seasons come and go, you have, the highs and lows, but overall you come out knowing more. You never know less
Right.
as you enter the same stages again with the second and third kid. And then you're kind of at this point, Harper's 6, so we're hand in hand with our motherhood journey together now from here on out, I think. Yeah.
Mm-mm. No, no fourth for a boy.
You know what? I feel like we low key tried 3 times for a boy and it didn't work. So maybe God's just telling me to
Yeah.
no, thank you. I don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have 3 very active and amazing girls from what I can see.
They
Also, I
are.
think we should have another episode at some point because I feel like you have a very unique approach even to like the education you hope to provide for your girls and even your birth journey, like having a doula. I think these are all like perspectives actually that would be helpful within the community. So I'm going to have you back on for that. Okay, so before you reveal your Enneagram, I would love to hear what kind of traveler you are typically before you had kids.
Before I had kids, I think before and after are kind of the same. So I
Okay.
am kind of like a loose schedule type of person. Like I always go on trips knowing where I want to go and things I want to eat more importantly.
Mhm.
But I never have like a timeline schedule itinerary that I have to follow. And I've never really been like that. So actually my ideal vacation is an all-inclusive where I don't have to do anything and I can
Mm,
like plan excursions kind of on the fly. I have done like, Europe travel once and things like that, but I think my personality type is a little bit more relaxed when it comes to travel and
mhm.
then way type A when it comes to everything
Like
else.
life? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
What
life.
about do you call him Chris or do you call him Tukes or do you call him baby? Or I don't
I,
know.
I
Yeah.
do not call him baby, jeez. I call him Tukes, but his name is Chris.
What about him? What kind of traveler is he?
He will pay for everything and plan nothing.
Okay, so then what does that look like together, I guess? Because it sounds like you're not a planner, but you're not a type A
Yeah, I'm like
planner on
kind of in the
trips,
middle. Like
right?
I know where I want to go. I definitely know like places I want to eat and places I want to visit, but I just don't have it like down to, a timeline or anything like that. And he's super laid back and go with the flow. So I don't know that we would really get along with a family that has all that planned out when we're traveling together. So we're kind of on the same page when it comes to
Let's
that.
say another family had a plan. Would
Mhm.
y'all be okay following that plan or you really prefer this like planless trip?
I really prefer the planless. After having
Okay.
kids, especially.
Ah, because it will
Yeah.
never meet your actual plan.
No, it
Okay.
won't.
So with kids, you had mentioned that it's kind of similar, but share a little bit about what that looks like in terms of y'all's family style and how you and Chooks both contribute to that.
So, like, I think the question was like the traveling style, but I
Mhm.
think traveling and flying are two completely different things.
Ah, yeah,
You know
that's
what I mean?
true. And especially for
So,
14 hours, right?
yes, for 14 hours, like we've done tons of domestic flights, and I often fly alone, even with three. Yeah, it's so different because with flights, something I hear on the plane all the time from like strangers, because I have two or three with me, is you are so calm. And my response 100% of the time is losing my mind will only make things worse and not better on this airplane for you.
Mm, mm.
So I'm really calm and really laid back on flights. We get to the airport usually like just for a little bit before it's time to board. I don't do like the long let my kids run around and type of thing. So we just kind of get there like right before. I pack everything. I take about a week to pack prior to us leaving, and I don't pack a ton of stuff. Like it's usually pretty light. Yeah, we get on the plane. My kids like they know where to go, they know what to do. It's really a smooth flight usually. Now travel's different because of my traveling style. I usually like to plan it so like one day we're doing something and the next day we're doing nothing. And one
Mm.
day we're doing something and the next day we're doing nothing. And I'm just kind of like crossing things off my list as we go, if
Interesting.
that
And
makes
then
sense.
what if you don't get to cross everything off your list?
That is okay. We will come back.
Okay. Oh, and you guys are
Yeah.
both okay with going back to the same place.
Yeah, we're okay with going back to the same place. I actually think that that's a great idea when it comes to traveling because you will not cross everything off. And you're not
Mm.
pressured to cross everything off if you know that you'll come back. And then once you've gone to that place, you kind of know the ins and outs. You're not a first timer there. So I feel like you'll learn so much that first trip, and the second trip you'll be so prepared to do things differently or.
For your kids, do you
Mhm.
think they like y'all's style of travel?
I don't know if they like me. I think they like my travel, but I don't think they like me sometimes because I'm like a very strict like disciplinarian and I don't like it when they're acting out. And sometimes it's hard for me to let them just be kids, especially when we're traveling because like, everything's heightened at that point anyhow.
Yeah. Well, let's get into that.
Yeah, okay.
What is your Enneagram?
I didn't even know what an Enneagram was until I spoke to you, but I took the test and it says 8. And
Yes.
I was reading the description to Chris and he was like, "This is spot on."
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah.
I feel like it because without getting too into the Enneagram in this episode, there are paths. And so an 8, that's a challenger. Some people like to refer to them as like the passionate protector. So it's not always like you're getting in a fight with them, you know? But they have like the blunt side. They tell it as it is. They're very direct. But they're also super loving, super passionate in their own ways. But that can definitely get misconstrued at times for someone to feel offended, even if that's not your intent, right? And
Sure, that
so,
happens all the
right,
time.
right. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I think I'd love to hear more later as like there aren't as many 8 females that I do know. So I'd love to hear more about that. But in this situation, it's interesting because I hear that come out in terms of like the way you are like no nonsense with certain things, but then you also kind of like know how to have a good time for your whole family and they kind of know what to expect out of you, it sounds like.
Yeah.
I like that tip of like something fun one day and then like you rest. And I noticed that in your stories as you were traveling. I was like, oh, that's an interesting like tip that I don't think I thought about is like really take that time to enjoy the whole 3 weeks and not be burnt out by the first week and then probably hate the rest of it.
Right. Yeah. And
Um,
with jet lag too, like that just
yeah,
changes everything.
right. Okay, so how long were you guys in Korea?
We were there from the 19th of May until June 15th. So almost a month.
Oh, almost a month.
Yeah, about 3.5 weeks. Yeah.
Wow.
Hmm.
Okay. Oh, I also wanted to know, do you know what Tukes's Enneagram is? Did he take
Nope.
it yet?
Mm-mm.
I bet you he's a 9. I have a high feeling he's a 9. I'll
I'm
send
gonna
it
hold
to
you to it.
Yeah,
We're
I
gonna do the
know.
test this
But
week.
yeah, but you have to like really know the person. So this is just like a exterior, like surface level guess. But I could definitely be wrong because it's all about like the inner things. So you really are in the thick of it. You guys are transitioning back. So I
Yes.
feel like this is the best time to reminisce about your trip. I am curious actually, do you plan with like the whole family in mind? Do you plan with just the kids in mind? Do you plan with just Harper in mind because she's the oldest?
So, because we've visited a foreign country to us, the big things I wanted to hit, like Gyeongbokgung Palace, for example,
Mm.
that was something for the whole family, but it was more so for the adults. Like my kids could care less if they were there. My parents traveled with us too, by the way.
Yes. Oh, so that's like a huge
Yeah, yeah.
varying age and everything.
Yes. So I wanted to make sure that in this trip they got to see what they wanted to see, and then somewhere in there I sprinkled in places I wanted to take the kids just for the kids.
Okay. When you do take your kids to places that might not interest them, how do they do in those?
They do way better outdoors than they do indoors.
Okay.
So I made sure that the places that we went were going to be mostly outdoors. And if it was like something indoor, such as like the Namsan Tower or something, we didn't do that because
Mm,
that would have totally not interested them at all. So I offered for my parents at that time to just go on their own, and they
mhm.
didn't go. But that was something that I opted out of because I knew
Right.
my kids and they are very outdoorsy. And so Gyeongbokgung Palace was okay because they were able to run around and, not get their butts chewed out by me.
Yeah.
But that,
Okay.
yeah,
So yeah, let's go into the recommendations then.
sure.
1 to 2 places that you would recommend while traveling in Korea, specifically with kids, but it sounds like it doesn't mean it was centered around just kid enjoyment. And I think that's a
Right,
helpful thing for me to remember because my mind is always like kid centered.
right,
And I do have to one like what do I want is an important question to ask like because I yeah like happy kids make me feel like it's worth it, but especially if we're going all the way to a foreign country, like don't forget parents have desires too and like things that we would want to see. So that's a
right.
really helpful reminder.
And I think it's also helpful to have conversations with your kids well in advance. So
Mm-hmm.
they're not showing up to this location and not really knowing what's going on. Harper's old enough to understand maybe like 50%. Ava probably understands 25%, but even having it in the back of their minds, like, hey, we're going here, this is why it's significant. I want to see it. You may not want to, but this is what it's going to look like. We showed them pictures. And so it wasn't a completely new place to them, really, when they got there. They were like,
Right.
oh, this is the palace. Like, yes, it is. But you can't go sit in
Mm.
that chair, you know? So, sorry, that was kind of a side note, but recommendations. Okay, so for the first category, it was restaurants. My recommendation was that there are so many of the same restaurant
Mm.
in Korea. So, like, if you go to just like one area, there's like Kukbap place, katsu place, Korean Chinese, like burgers, there's so many. So I don't think that you have to narrow it down, especially with kids, to this specific restaurant in this specific location. I highly advise against doing that because that's going to drive everybody crazy to get there. I think if you just choose a location, let's just say Hongdae, for example, you're going to find everything that you want there, right? So it doesn't really matter, where you are
Mm.
in terms of restaurants, unless you're a true foodie. Um, I wanted to try like all the Michelin, rated
Mm.
restaurants and stuff. We didn't get to do that, but
But
um,
then you'll go back.
yeah, we'll go back. See, we'll go back. And my kids just like anything like with noodles. Any
Yeah.
mom and pop soup restaurants were a huge hit. I think that Korea was like really kid friendly when it came to meals. They all had like play settings for kids but they don't give you crayons and activities to do. So come prepared.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you will not be waiting very long for them to bring out the food. So I don't really
Okay.
think that those activities are necessary, but if you have a toddler or something, maybe just bring something for them to do. I think out of all the places that we ate at, my kids loved the seafood market that we went to.
Are they courageous eaters?
They are kind of courageous when it comes to that stuff. They kind of like to eat what I eat because I'm constantly feeding them what I eat. At home, for example, if they don't want to eat something, if I invite them to cook with me, they're more apt to try it.
Hmm.
So kind of parallel to these
Yeah.
seafood markets where you went, or the meat restaurants, like the
Right.
nice meat restaurants, you go choose your meat. And so in the
Mm.
seafood restaurants too, you go choose your seafood. That specific crab will be at your table. And then also doubled as an aquarium. So we spent a lot of time just like walking around. Everybody came out and talked to them, and they could see like anything they wanted. And then we went upstairs when the food was ready to eat, and that was like our most enjoyable meal, I think. But yeah, I don't really have any like specific restaurant recommendations.
No, I think that's good, even in that it kind of portrays your style too. It's like what experience was the most memorable, which is like, yeah, like doing the buttons and kind of like seeing
Right.
what would be both a good meal and an aquarium. That's a smart idea.
Yeah. Oh, and a lot of restaurants have screens at the table. So you
Oh,
almost have like
okay.
no interaction. And then the kids were like that too because you could literally look and choose, boop, 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 like this is what I want. And then it comes out so quickly.
Oh.
Another tidbit of fun that I found there.
Yeah. When's the last time you guys went to Korea?
Oh, geez. So Chris has never been there. And
Oh, this
then
is his first
it was
time.
first time. And the last time I went was when I was in high school. So 20 years ago.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so worlds are
Yes.
definitely like
Yeah, it really felt like just a
changed since
completely
then.
different country.
Yeah, I'm excited because I'm going with Matt too. It's like our first time in
Yeah.
Korea since
With the
he's
kids, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay, okay. Yes, yes.
Okay. What about like experiences? So we can kind of lump it together, the kids
Sure.
cafes, amusement parks, or museums, or etc.
Okay.
Kids specific, what was the recommendation? You should do this.
Yes, there are tons of kids cafes there, everywhere. I would download Naver Map before you go. I liked
Okay.
that better than Kakao Map. And if you
Okay.
just type in kids cafe or in Korean Kiji Cafe, they all come up and you can see like the ratings and stuff like that. And if you have a Naver account, you can also reserve your tickets ahead of time to get into these places. Because a
Oh.
lot of the time, like for example, the sensory place that we went to had time blocks because most everything is like employee led.
Mm.
So the Hello Milgaru, it's like a 2 hour time block. The first hour they play with the flour, then they go to like the rice section, and then they do cooking class, and then they go to free play while the cooking class is done. So you don't have to do anything. It's a kids cafe because you can sit there and you
Wow.
drink coffee.
Oh my
You don't have
gosh,
to
that's
like be with the
awesome.
kids. Like some of them you can leave the kids, kind of like a
Mm,
drop-in daycare, and then some of them you have to stay with them. So that one, the Hello Milkaru, you had to stay there, but I really didn't have to do anything other than
right.
take pictures. And then another one we went to twice because we really loved, and I even like made a TikTok and a reel on it, was called Champion the Black Belt.
I've heard that several times, so I
Oh, okay.
absolutely need to put this. I don't know much about it, but that's
There are
constantly been one.
several locations of them.
Okay.
We went to the one in Seoul Times Square because we were staying there. So I signed the kids up to go, and you can either stay with them or you can drop them off for 2 hours and they will watch your children. Yeah,
Wow.
that place had like obstacle course. They have also employee-led things such as like the Ninja Warrior course. And if you want to do art, they'll sit there and do an art project with them. Or they had a pretend play area, and then they have like a little kids area, sensory play with blocks and stuff like that. I just liked it all together. It was so clean. Restrooms were for children only. Like their employees can't even use it.
That's awesome. Because sometimes when
Yeah.
I go to those kids' museums or whatnot here, like I know everything is gross. Like I see the kids like licking and like
Yeah. And
whatever.
it's they're
So
constantly vacuuming and constantly wiping down. And
mm,
I feel like Korea is probably one of the cleaner countries in that like whole
mhm,
hygiene sanitation type of
right.
deal. So it didn't matter where I went, there was a lot of cleaning happening all the time, like even in restaurants. But
Mm.
we really, really liked that kids cafe, and I think that they would have even gone back again if I let them.
And it's
So
good that there's multiple locations. Did you guys go to the same location? Oh,
we
because
did,
you were
yeah, because
staying
we were
there.
staying there. Yeah, yeah. I will say I went to Korea partly for language immersion for my kids, but
Mm,
people speak English well there.
right.
So if they see like,
Yeah.
white baby, they're not gonna go like, oh, 안녕, they say, oh, hi. And
They want
then
to
my
practice
kids are
their
like,
English.
you can speak English.
Maybe in the future you can do those like summer camp because I know
I
you
would
were
love
too
to.
late for that, right? Like
I was. So
barely.
we booked this trip the day after Harper finished her first year of kindergarten.
Mm,
And Korea doesn't get out of school until I think like mid-June. So a
yeah.
lot of like these camps and stuff start mid-June and on.
Yeah.
But I wanted to go before the rush, but I guess I
Right.
wasn't thinking because I'm like, oh, now what are they going to do when I get there?
Yeah.
So yeah, we would love to do that. I saw your podcast with Camp Hwaran, right?
Yeah.
Hwaran
Yeah.
ladies.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
so we'd love to do that next time, whenever that's going to be.
Mm. Did you guys take any either weekend trips or day trips?
I think it was during the week, but we went to Jeju-do for a few days. It was like 3 days in Jeju-do. It's like a less than 1 hour flight, or you can take a ferry, but I think the ferry is like several hours.
Okay.
It was so fun, and everything, it was like so much more slower there. Like we were staying in Seoul for, first leg of our trip, and it's so busy and there's like just so much and it's really overwhelming. But when we got to Jeju-do, it just felt like everything just like slowed down. The
Okay.
hotel we
And they
chose,
liked it, right? Because it.
they loved it. They only liked the hotel. They did not want to leave the hotel.
What
They have
hotel
a
is this?
It was the Grand Chosun Hotel. They have a lot of different
Oh.
resorts there. This is just the
Okay.
one that I went with because I saw how great their kids' rooms were. And then my friend Jenny ended up going and staying there. And I had no idea she was staying there, but I saw her post and I was like, oh, this is a sign. I have to book it. They had kid themed rooms and like entire kids' wing. So it was like just
Oh,
with
that's right. I
families.
saw that. They all had different bed
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just like a kid's wing. So there's only families like in that wing or that floor. There's like
Mm.
a kids play place inside. It's free.
Oh, wow.
Like
Okay.
swimming pool. And then Korea is really big on breakfast buffets. Like if you stay at hotels, they have lots of buffets, lunch and dinner, but breakfast is usually really big. And this one was the only one I went to that had a kids buffet section. I mean,
Wow,
my
that's
kids
so
were just like, this is
good.
like Disney World. Like this is
Yeah.
amazing.
Okay.
I say this because they were happier because of the location, the accommodations, and all these things that were kind of catered to them. That we did more sightseeing, I feel like, in Jeju-do than we did
Mm.
in the city, and they were so much happier.
This is my confirmation because I was like, should I do that? But like, I feel like that Jaden will have a lot of fun and I will have a lot of
I think he
fun
really
as well.
will.
Was that the only outside of Seoul trip that you guys took?
We did Jeju-do for a few days. Now we went to visit my aunt lives in Kumgok, which is in Namyangju or something. It's about an hour away,
Okay.
and her house is like in the country. So
Mm.
we visited there for a day. And while I was there, I was telling her, I visited her when I was in high school too, but I was like, you know what? Next time I come, I'm coming straight here and doing my jet lag here. 'Cause there's like
Mm.
nothing to do. So it's so nice because you can just do nothing and have nowhere to go and still like catch up with family. And it was beautiful. They just liked being outside. You could just like walk to a little supermarket, get an ice cream, and walk back.
Aw.
So it was really nice.
I'm so glad you got to stay there for a month and like get to
Oh,
like go around and like really enjoy it, I think.
yeah, it was hard, but it was really nice to not have to cram everything into like a week.
Yeah, yeah. What else are either places or experiences you might recommend?
Yeah, there are a lot of amusement parks. And I
Okay.
wanted to touch on that because my kids are 6 and 4.
Mhm.
And Harper, just depending on your kids' ages, Harper's tall enough to ride most of the rides.
Okay.
Ava is just under the minimum height requirement for a lot of the rides. So if you have kids that are
Mm.
in like 6 and 4 exactly ish, it makes it hard to go somewhere because the younger one will always be left out.
Oh, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah. So such as like Pororo World or wherever I went to, or they have like a Tayo theme park, lots of theme parks. Yeah, depending on like, or on TV shows and stuff like that. They have smaller rides, like kid rides and stuff. But we
Mm.
also went to this place called Wonder Box, which is in this Paradise Resort. It's a big hotel in Incheon. And that was hard because it was about 50% of the stuff Ava couldn't do. Though it
Okay.
was an indoor theme park and it was small, I think that made it worse because there was like stuff she still couldn't do.
Yeah.
So that's tricky with amusement parks just at this age, I think.
You said like the Bororo or Tayo would be the more recommended places?
I think so, yeah. Over like Everland or, Lotte World or something like that. Which I did hear that they had kid specific rides, but even so, that age 4 is real tough because
Mhm.
the variances in height are big at that age. I mean, this much, and they were like, "No, you can't
Yeah.
go
Oh,
on."
they're so strict. Oh my gosh, she came back with the cutest little Korean
I
haircut.
had to I had to do it. I had to do it. I was like, "One of y'all is gonna get a bowl cut while we're there. Who's going?"
Yeah. When else will they let you do this? Not when they're older, for sure.
I know, but I love it. I'm like, "I'm gonna keep this bowl cut on
Yeah.
her forever." I took a picture and sent it to Chris, and he was like, "Oh, wow."
Yeah. Does she like it?
She likes it. She keeps asking, "Am I cute? Am I cute?" Because everybody there in like the salon was like, "Do you have a wig on her? Her hair is perfect all the time. It doesn't matter what you do to it. That girl's hair is perfect." I said, "Could we do
Um,
that for Harper?" And the lady was like, "No," because her hair is curly.
Oh. Okay, anything else?
They have really nice cafes, delicious drinks. They're really big into coffee.
That's right. I only asked about kids cafes. I don't know about like
Yeah,
regular
adult
cafes too.
cafes. I would just go, let your kid play on your phone and enjoy the music and aesthetics and take pictures
Mm.
because it's just like calming. Like I loved the cafes there. They're all pretty. So if we'd be walking by, I'd be like, I'm gonna go grab a coffee in here, or oh, let's go to, I bet you can take really nice pictures in this one. So I don't
Mm.
remember the names of them.
Did you guys ever go to the
Mhm.
animal cafes there?
We ended up going to one. So we did our research before we went, but I didn't check minimum age requirements. And so Harper
Oh.
really wanted to go to the Samoyed like dog cafe because there's a bunch of them, a bunch of big dogs. And she's like,
Mhm.
I have to go to that one. And then there was also a meerkat cafe. She really wanted to go to those two. So we went all the way to Hongdae, got there, got in line, and they wouldn't listen because minimum age was 10.
Oh, that's so old. So neither of them could get in.
No. Yeah, that was like a foot stomping angry.
Yeah.
But I felt bad for her. So I ended up asking a local, and they pointed me in the direction of this like tiny little cat cafe that was on
Mm.
like the third floor of a building, and it smelled so bad. But they allowed kids to come in because this was kind of like a rescue cafe. All the cats in there are seniors.
Oh.
But they honestly, when I went there, it was so clean. It's just you can't get rid of that smell when you have like that many cats
Right,
together.
right.
So we were able to go to one. I'm sure there were more, but that was just in our allotted time. I want to circle, if you don't mind, there's
Yeah.
one more kids cafe in Seoul Times Square. There's a place called Jurong Jurong. Zulong Zulong. That's what it comes up on and neighbor.
Okay.
And it's a zoo type of experience. They give you little packets of food and you can feed these animals. They come like some of them come right up to you. Yeah, and so like you
Whoa.
unlock
That's
the
yes.
first door and it's like a kind of a fantasy land that it allows you to go into. And so you go through different rooms and then at the end they have like a kids play place and what do you know? They have a cafe for adults to just sit in.
The way Korean people just think about like efficiency, like when they
It was
hear how the layout of
yes,
things are done
so
so that
smart,
the
so
end
smart.
really is like the wow, yes, thank you, like
Yes, I would have gone back to again if I had time to, because the kids really wanted to go back there. There's
okay.
a Courtyard Marriott attached to this whole Times Square. We stayed there, and I think I'm going to stay there again if I go back because it was so central and like close to everything. Maybe
Okay.
that's a story for another day. But
So did you stay with family ever or you guys booked all your
no,
places?
we booked all of our places. So initially I was going to do all Airbnbs, but I was going with my parents and I kind of wanted them to not have to worry about us. I felt like if I did an Airbnb, my mom would be cooking and, doing all that. So I'm like, we're on vacation.
Mm.
So we
Mhm.
switched everything over to hotels. The longest stay we had was at the Courtyard Marriott. And then first few days we stayed at like a really fancy like luxury resort. I loved it, but I want to go back. But we couldn't afford to stay there. So we did the jet lag there. The good thing about these hotels is that the cafes in Korea don't open till 9 or 10, which
I've
is a
heard that things in Korea open late, which is not
super
friendly.
late. There are
Yeah.
a lot of 24-hour restaurants, but like cafes for some reason there's nothing that opens. Like here, Starbucks opens at like 5:30, right?
Yeah.
5:30 or 6. When you have flippin' jet lagged kids, they wake you up and they're like so hungry and like you need coffee. You either have hotel coffee, which I'm a coffee snob. I'm not drinking that. Or you go to the buffet, which opens at like 6 or 7. That's like the earliest coffee that you
Yeah,
can get,
that's not
unless you go to the convenience store, which that's not bad either. I liked it.
that's
But
really yeah.
yeah, the good thing about hotels is that you can get food and coffee super early before any of the other places open. If
And it sounded like you liked all of the hotels you chose.
we did, I definitely liked the first one, obviously, because it was a really nice hotel. Jeju was really good too. Courtyard Marriott was nice too. It was upper average, I think, just for the location alone. We only really were in there to sleep. They didn't
Mhm.
have like a hotel or anything like that. They had restaurant and lounge, and then it's directly connected to Times Square, which is like a plain mall, nothing too luxury, but then it's also connected to Shinsegae, which is all the luxury shops. So in
Oh.
there, you have two food courts to choose from, and the food courts are lit. Like
Yeah.
Shinsegae food court was so amazing. You didn't have to go to
Yeah.
like the street vendors because everything was in there. And then
Yeah.
it was also connected to Subway if you want to go to on the
That's
Subway. So
perfect.
you don't have to go anywhere.
It's like such a random side thought as I like try to get to know everyone's like just little tendencies. I feel like Enneagram 8s really
Hmm.
like to be at the center of
Hmm.
maybe in life too, I don't know, but like central because then you have access to all the things that you want. Cause I know someone else, he was sharing like how they found their house and they said, I just opened the map, I looked at the middle and I said, okay, that's where we're gonna live. Like that's where we're gonna find our house, like because that's just like
Oh,
easy access kind of thing. So I wonder if there is any like
that
subtle
might have something to do
correlation.
with it because I do have friends that like staying away from the hustle and
Right,
bustle,
right, right.
like kind of tucked away, which I understand that and I
Yeah,
like to do
yeah.
that too. But my house too, we chose this location because it was really easy to get to highways. It's
Mhm,
far,
mhm,
but it's right
mhm.
off the highway. So
Interesting.
anyway, yeah, that totally makes
Um,
sense.
yeah, okay. Tips while
Oh,
traveling
tips.
to and
Okay.
from Korea. I think it was smart. Some things I've learned is that one, you booked a hotel for jet lag that was like kind of nicer. That's a good idea.
Yeah. So I flew out of DFW. It was a direct flight. So it was a little bit longer there, maybe 2 hours longer there than on the way back, just FYI. And then our flight there was a daytime flight. Our flight back was a red eye. Either way, I will tell you, I thought that it would change things because it was a red eye.
Mhm.
The jet lag
Okay,
still,
I was just thinking like, oh, when is ours?
the jet lag
Jet lag is
still,
inevitable. Okay,
yeah. Like the morning and the day is okay. It's everybody kind of hits a wall around 4,
right, right, right.
right before dinner.
You say that you have a pretty like understood routine with at least Ava and Harper. I am curious what it was like flying with Isabel. Like, how was it? Is this the first time you've flown this young, this long with one of your kids?
Y- Young and long, yes. The only first international flight I took with Harper, she was 1.5, and we went to England, which was 9 hours. I much prefer flying with an infant over a toddler,
Yeah, because
international.
Evan's actually gonna be like 1. I don't know how it'll be.
Isabel is still, I nurse her.
So that
So,
is a good
yeah, as long
right
as she's
there.
like full, she's pretty happy. And
Mm,
then, obviously, like if she's napped and stuff, she's pretty happy. But she's now getting more vocal and fidgety, which happens right around 8 to 10 months. And then I think
right.
the most difficult time to fly is 12 to 24 months.
We're going at
Uh,
11.
yeah,
So
so I'm praying for you. I think you're gonna be
thank
fine.
you,
He
thank
seems
you.
pretty chill.
He's easy to get along with. He's getting more mobile, so that's a little bit like worrisome for like
Mm,
the flight since the screen can't necessarily captivate him the way it will for
right.
Jaden.
Have
But
you picked your seats?
yeah, did you guys get bassinet?
We did lap. We had bassinet seating though. When you pick your seats, you have to pick it in a row that allows a bassinet. Not every row can fit a bassinet.
Oh no, I don't think that happened.
I
I think
would call and ask.
okay.
We didn't use the bassinet.
Okay.
So what you're gonna do, you probably have to edit this out, is you're gonna lie about how much he weighs.
Okay.
Just say, we want a bassinet. I have an infant. Da, da, da. He's not over the weight limit. Check that out first. I don't know what it is. But then that it gives you so much more leg room. So you can
That's
even
right.
put down
That's
like a
right.
little blanket and let them roam around right in front of you. Because a lot of the time I had her in the carrier and I was trying to like rock her to sleep and I got yelled at like several times to sit back down because the seatbelt sign was on.
Oh no. Okay. I will
Right.
not edit this because this
So
is important information.
yeah. So it's like, I think on our airplane, which is a pretty standard airplane for international flights, there's like row 13 or something is not an exit row. It's a bassinet seating row. So it's right
Okay.
behind, it's the first row in economy. I think it's main cabin extra or something
Okay.
like that. We
Okay.
didn't fly business.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
then the second option you have is an exit row. I will
Okay.
tell you, for an exit row, your family has to be sitting together, not in the exit seats. For example, if like you and Jaden and then baby in your lap sat in the middle, but Matt got a seat in the exit row next to you over one, and he had to be, they will not let him sit there because in an emergency, he will be more apt to help your family than carry out his duties.
Ah,
I only say this because on the way there, guess who was sitting in the exit row? Chris was sitting in the exit row
yeah.
and they moved him back to the back of the plane, row 33.
So then you were with all the kids alone?
I was with the kids, but I had my parents.
Okay, okay. Oh my goodness.
So that's the only downside to the exit row. We should have just done
Okay.
an extra podcast on flying because there's like
I
so
know
many
there's so many things. That's so
ups
true.
and downs. I didn't know that till we got on the plane to get there. So on the way back, I had the same rows booked, and I think they actually just moved me because they knew what
Okay.
happened to the same bassinet seating, but on the in the front of the plane.
Oh my
Hmm.
goodness. Okay, that's a good tip.
Just say, I'm flying with two kids. I know that you have bassinet seating. I was wondering if there's any way we could shift the seats around so that we can be accommodated for that. I'm sure they would say yes.
Okay.
And then I always bring on, I don't know if you saw this in my Instagram stories, but like a little box of chocolate for the flight attendants.
I did actually see that. That's your like two side coming in where it's like you
Oh,
know
yeah,
how to
yeah.
do this relational stuff. I was like, "Oh, that's like so smart."
Because I mean, it's twofold. You're saying thank you to the staff
Yeah,
because you don't
yeah.
know what's going to happen during the flight, and your kid can completely have a meltdown. But also, I feel like they're more apt to like check on you, and like they even brought giant cups of ice cream for my kids, like when they were getting a
Oh,
little fussy, and that was really kind of them. Not that they have to do that,
right, right.
but
They
they have a
will. They
hard
will.
job, dude. I don't know how flight attendants do it. 12 hours straight with like that many passengers. They deserve more than chocolate.
Yeah, I agree.
There are just a few more tips if you don't
Yes.
mind. They're
Oh,
so
please
important.
share.
Like you have
Yes.
to know them. You have to know.
Yes.
So it's so hard to find a changing table in normal restaurants and cafes. Like you may come across one, but probably not. Just assume you won't. So it's really nice to know where your nearest mall is because the malls have these giant mother's rooms.
Okay.
They're giant. You can even like rent strollers for free there. They have nursing rooms, they have tons of changing tables. You can clean your kids up there. They even have microwaves and high chairs for you to be able to feed. So I
Dang, that's
always,
interesting they don't have those. I mean, I guess space,
yeah. So
I
either
guess.
get really good at changing them on your lap, which I've
Yeah.
done,
Yeah.
or my umbrella stroller does a full recline.
Mm, mm, mm.
So even if it doesn't do that, you can just change them like outside somewhere. But the part two to the changing table is
Uh-huh.
that there's also like nowhere to throw out trash because of Korea's strict waste policies.
Okay.
So I always had an empty grocery bag with me, not just for diaper, but for everything else. Like
Everything, yeah.
I'm like the central trash person in my family. So
Mhm.
much trash, and there was like nowhere to put it. And then they also charge, well, most of the time for grocery bags, if you go to like a store or something like that, or even if you were to go shopping, sometimes they don't always give the bags for free. So I
Mm.
just had like a reusable like Target bag.
I didn't know they had such strict waste policies.
They
I
do, and
didn't
if
know.
they, I think it's like super illegal if they disposing of your waste against their policy. Don't your parents live there, right?
Yeah.
I would ask them about that because I don't know exactly what the policy is, but I knew not to mess with it.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I think my moral of the story, biggest tip is if you can, travel with grandparents.
So that was
Yeah.
what is y'all's relationship so that like grandparents was a plus? Because I think as I talk to some other people, just in general, like
Mhm.
that sometimes is a stressor.
It was a little bit of a stressor too, only because they're not young. So I was like constantly worried about not only my family, but like, are my parents okay? Like, are they just acting okay because they think I need help? Or do they need
Mhm.
a day to rest? Or like, do they want to do something on their own? Like, those were my stressors, but we didn't like not get along. My parents and I get along really well. And
Mm.
I think we have a pretty good like mutual respect for how I raise my children.
That's so good.
Yeah, so I mean, we do butt heads here and there because
Right,
only
right.
because my mom thinks I'm too hard on them.
Mm.
I am, but they're her grandbaby, so she's just constantly like, you need to give them grace, and you weren't always perfect, and this and that. So I heard a lot of that, like chansory, or like just chirping in my ear.
Yeah.
But we do have a really great relationship with them, and I'm really glad that they got to experience it with them.
Yeah, that's so good. It sounds like it's everyone got to
Yeah.
go to Korea and then have a good experience with each other.
But we had 7 people, so we couldn't take a regular taxi. We had to hire, they have like jumbo taxis, which are big vans that you can come get to pick you up and
Dang,
take you places.
that's a big crew. But it
Yes.
was
Well,
worth it.
it
If the
was, it was,
dynamic
it was.
is
Yes.
good, it's worth it. Okay, any other final tips before we reminisce and end?
I think one of the things that you may notice there is that parents are really different with their kids there than here. I noticed like such a big that's a culture thing that I learned
Yes.
while I was in Korea. And that's hard because you're trying to take your kids to kids cafes and playgrounds and this and that. And I just felt like I was overdoing it with the don't do this, say excuse me, sit over here until you can act right, like doing
Mm.
that when their kids were running rampant and the parents were just more understanding and accepting of them being kids.
One of the other moms also mentioned that. It was like
Okay.
they just do whatever they want in a sense. I
Yeah,
don't know if
they're
that's kind
they're
of like
less
what.
too disciplined. I don't know if it's just like out in public too. Like I don't know the culture because I don't live there.
Mhm.
But I felt like they were staring at me like I was crazy because I was saying this and also in English probably. And I don't have like the softest voice when I'm speaking either. And also my kids were kind of like, why am I getting in trouble for this when like
When
Susie
they're
over there
not.
is or whatever
Yeah.
her name
Yeah.
is running crazy. So that was really different.
Yeah, and I bet that's hard when you are trying to do your regular parenting
Yeah, because
and
I was doing it for the sake of others. Like I didn't
right,
want my kids to be, acting crazy for other people.
right.
But maybe I needed to change my mind. It made me just do a lot of thinking while I was there,
Hmm.
in a way, in a good way, just kind of challenging myself.
Okay, what was your hardest memory there, particularly whenever you were traveling with your
Mm.
kids?
My kids complained a lot, believe it or not. They complained that their legs hurt. They were bored all the time. They wanted to buy everything because there's a lot of street shops and stuff. And like their markets, like Ima트 and Lottema트 and stuff, are like Targets times 1,000. It's like they have a whole Toys R Us inside of the supermarket.
I'm not going to any of those. I'm just
No, you go to the mom and pop shop,
yeah,
local mart.
that's a
You don't
great
go in there.
site to, yeah, I'm not ready for that stuff. Okay.
So anyway, so that was hard for me because
Mhm.
I actually one time just flipped out and I was like, you guys are being spoiled little brats. Like, do you know how much everyone needed to sacrifice for this trip for you? Do you know what we did to get you here so we could show you this? And
Mhm.
then I realized later on, like, mom guilt, obviously, like, they don't know. They don't know,
Mm.
and they're not going to know the answer to that. All they knew that was they were in a foreign country outside of their comfort zone. They were tired, they were hungry, they were like super overstimulated. So yeah, they had every right to act like that. But because of all of what I put into this trip was on my shoulders, I felt like other people, including my tiny little children, needed to not applaud me for it, but understand my
Right.
thought.
Appreciate.
Maybe this is more of like the eight coming out in me,
Yeah, no. I'm
right?
hearing that.
Um, but yeah, I lost my mind, and I think that was like the hardest thing for me to do because I was like, man, you don't even know. I didn't have to do
Yeah.
this. Nobody had to be here. We did this for
Yeah.
you, and you've gotten all this stuff, and you're gonna complain that your legs hurt, you know?
And for eights, like the two that I keep mentioning around like your family or your secure people, the negative traits of a two might come up, which is like being resentful or unappreciated for the sacrifices that you do
Mm,
make. And so
yeah,
it makes sense that like you even if your style might be sound more like carefree in a sense, like it
right.
doesn't mean you didn't just plan a month-long trip for like three generations, of like
Yeah,
two different races and like yeah, so that's
yeah.
like a huge like applaud worthy thing. And so I'm sure that was in the moment type of thing. And it's cool that you do reflect on that after and realize where they really were in their
Yeah,
mind.
now I wish I would have said it then. So I did
Yeah.
apologize for it, but it wasn't right afterwards because I didn't get to reflect on it till like
Right.
later. Yeah, and they also didn't understand me needing for them to rest after we've done something like the are now rest days.
Mm. Because they don't understand, they don't
No, I
know
said, you
the
need this.
concept.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They're like, no, we want to go
Oh,
outside. I'm like, no, no, no.
that's really smart.
So that, I think that was
What
the
about your
hardest
most
thing.
favorite memory?
My favorite memory. Let's see. If you ask Harper, maybe it's not me. She's gonna say 100%. I guarantee you. I'll even do it on Instagram. She's gonna say my favorite memory was eating odeng on a stick.
That's
She's
like
like,
the
you went
perfect
all
memory.
yeah, you went all the way to create odeng on a stick. Like I make that for you at home. But it was like the process of going and picking out
Yeah.
what she wanted and having it on a stick and eating it. And like I think that to her was taking everything in.
That's I think that's beautiful because that's actually a representative of Korea. And like she almost like captured that in such a
Right.
simple.
Yeah, it's like the end of it, I'm gonna get like emotional, but to her, like that was it. Like eating that stick and like seeing, taking all the sights around, being with her favorite people, eating her favorite food. And I was like, oh, it was worth it.
Yeah. Oh my god. I love that
So,
that's how you're sharing the
oh
memory.
God, that was part of
Eights are actually big
it.
softies. Oh, yeah, you have to ask her on Instagram too
Yeah,
after
well,
this
I'll ask
podcast.
her like tomorrow morning if she's not being
Yeah.
mean
Yeah.
to me.
And so last, I guess, would be overall, just like if you could describe this trip, what would it be in a fruit?
Ooh, yes, I like this question. I would say it'd be like a container of blueberries. Yeah, my kids always say blueberries. They love blueberries so much, but they never know what they're gonna get. Even
Mm,
like the sweetest one could be really
right.
sour, but the tiniest one could be really sweet. Yeah, so I never knew what the day was gonna bring. It could have like started off really bad, but then it ended great, you know.
Yeah.
Or we encountered like something we wanted to do and it seemed really hard, but it was fine. Or vice versa. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, this is gonna be easy, and it was like meltdown central all day.
Right. But overall, the blueberry
Yes,
can is good.
yeah, because we love blueberries.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like yeah, you even said maybe next year when you're rethinking of Korea.
yeah.
Not everyone would think of doing this trip again. I'll let you know if I decide to try to do this
I
again.
don't know either. I don't know if that's just me coming off of the high or
Yeah.
if it's really feasible, but yeah, again, it goes back to if you go there a second time, you know what to expect and you know what to
Yeah.
do and not to do, and I think it makes it way easier on
Yeah.
everybody.
Do you have anything else you want to share?
I just think that if you want to do it, this is a trip I thought about for a long time, and I don't know why I didn't do it earlier. It's just it takes a lot of time and energy to plan it, but if you can just buy the tickets and let it just pan out. But I don't think you're going to regret it. I think it was a great trip, but I think the hardest part is just to commit to buying the tickets and going because we put it off for years.
Right. Oh, well, I
Yeah.
appreciate you coming. Eights are very strong, but they have such a soft side. They're actually very vulnerable and willing to share. So I love that I got to see like a glimpse of that today. I really do feel like there's so many like parenting things that are very unique to what you have to offer. So hopefully that can happen.
Oh, I'd be
Um,
happy to
but yeah,
share.
yes, I feel like there's a lot of wisdom there. I hope your kids recover from all the jet lag.
I hope so too. It's
Yeah,
11:30, so
I
I
know.
guarantee someone's gonna be, I'm hungry in like an hour, but that's
Yes, I
okay.
need to release you for your
Oh, you're good.
probably mother duties that are coming up soon, but thank you so much for sharing all the wisdom. I feel like
Thank
there was
you.
so much like I'm gonna be taking notes since I'm planning to travel soon myself.
You are welcome and thank you. And you're welcome and thank you.
Thank you and you're welcome. Okay, thank you
Okay.
guys for tuning into another episode of Color Commentary. Bye.